When someone attacks you, calls you arrogant, selfish, fake, your instinct is to defend yourself. But here's the brutal truth. The moment you defend, you lose. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He knew that in power games, perception is everything. And the second you explain yourself, you're telling the world, yes, your judgment matters more than mine. You hand them control. You look weak. Think about the most powerful people you've ever seen. They don't scramble to explain, they don't argue, they don't panic. They hold silence like a weapon, and that silence makes the room shift. Suddenly, the accuser looks insecure, emotional, unstable, while you look untouchable. In this video, you'll learn why defending yourself is the fastest way to give away power, how silence flips the frame instantly, and Machiavelli's coldest move that turns every attack into your advantage. Stay until the end, because the final tactic is the one that makes you immune, not just strong but impossible to touch. And if this resonates already, hit like and subscribe. Because here, we don't just talk, we train the mind for power. Picture this. Someone points a finger at you in front of others. Maybe it's a co-worker in a meeting, a rival on social media, or even someone close to you in a personal relationship. The jab is sharp. You're arrogant. You're selfish. You're not as good as you think. In that split second, your whole body reacts, your mind races. I need to correct this. I need to explain. That's the trap. Because the moment you defend yourself, you've already fallen into their frame. You've admitted, without even realizing, that they had the authority to accuse you, and you had the obligation to answer. That's what Machiavelli saw so clearly. He understood that in power games, the one who defends is already beneath the one who accuses. Defending yourself means you've accepted their rules, their arena, their judgment, and once you do that, you've lost, no matter how good your explanation sounds. Think about it. When someone rushes to say, "No, that's not true, you misunderstood, I didn't mean it," do they look strong? Or do they look desperate to be liked, desperate to be believed? It doesn't matter if they're innocent. Desperation always looks like guilt. And here's the cruel twist of human psychology. Defending yourself rarely convinces anyone. In fact, it usually does the opposite. When people see you explaining, they assume you have something to hide. They think, if he wasn't guilty, why is he working so hard to prove it? This is why Machiavelli said that words aren't for clarifying truth, they're for obscuring it. The more you explain, the more fog you create around yourself. And in that fog, you look weaker, not stronger. Now imagine two people in a room. One is frantically explaining, "No, you've got it wrong. I didn't mean that. Let me explain." The other sits back, calm, unmoved, silent. Which one commands respect? Which one do people fear? Always the silent one. Always the one who doesn't play defense. Because silence creates mystery, and mystery creates power. The frantic explainer looks guilty, even if he's innocent. But the calm one, the one who doesn't react, suddenly seems dangerous. People wonder, why isn't he answering? Does he know something we don't? Is he above this? Or is he so confident that nothing can touch him? That doubt is power. That uncertainty shifts the frame instantly. This is why the first law of Machiavellian power is simple, brutal, and absolute. Never defend yourself. Not because you're afraid of the accusation, not because you're hiding something, but because the act of defense itself is surrender. When you defend yourself, you put yourself on trial in a court you never agreed to enter. You let them be the judge. You accept their authority. You lower yourself to their level. The strong man, the strategist, the Machiavellian, he doesn't defend, he doesn't explain, he doesn't justify. He lets silence burn. He lets others twist in the weight of their own accusation. And here's the key. The less you defend, the more others step in to defend you. People start saying, yeah, that was uncalled for. He didn't even respond and you're still pushing. Suddenly, the crowd becomes your shield, while you remain untouchable. So remember this: defending yourself is not protection, it's submission. It's stepping into their frame and playing their game. And in the game of power, the one who accepts the enemy's rules is already defeated. The question then becomes, if you don't defend yourself, what do you do instead? That's where the Machiavellian art begins. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a weapon. When someone attacks you, they want a reaction. They want to see you flinch, to watch you scramble for words, to feed on your emotions. The average person gives them exactly that: explanations, defenses, reassurances. They hand over their power piece by piece, thinking they're saving face, when in reality, they're digging their own grave. But the Machiavellian knows better. He understands that the one who speaks first loses control of the frame. The one who reacts is already trapped, and the one who holds silence, calm, steady, unbothered, turns the entire room against the accuser without lifting a finger. Picture this. You're in a meeting. Someone jabs at you in front of everyone. I don't think your idea was really thought through. All eyes turn to you, waiting for the defense, the nervous laugh, the anxious explanation. But instead, you say nothing. You lean back. You hold still. You let the silence hang. Now the room begins to shift. People start wondering, why isn't he responding? Is he so confident that he doesn't even need to? Does he know something we don't? Did that attack just backfire? In that moment, your silence says more than 1,000 words ever could. You flip the frame. You're no longer the one on trial. They are. Silence creates discomfort, not for you, but for the one who attacked. They expected a fight. They expected blood. Instead, they're left speaking into a void. And the longer the silence stretches, the more desperate they look. They fidget. They repeat themselves. They try to explain their own insult. Suddenly, they're the ones who seem insecure. They're the ones who look guilty. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. Power doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being untouchable. And nothing makes you untouchable faster than silence, because silence is not empty. Silence is presence. Silence is control. Think about the people you've met who radiate power. They weren't always the loudest or the most liked. But when they walked into a room, everyone felt it. They didn't rush to fill the air with chatter. They didn't scramble to correct every misunderstanding. They let stillness do the talking. And that stillness forced others to second-guess themselves. The silent man is unpredictable. He is unreadable. And unpredictability is fear, because people don't know what he's thinking or what he might do next. That mystery alone makes him dangerous. But here's the real secret. Silence doesn't just protect you, it amplifies you. When you finally do speak, your words carry 10 times the weight, because people lean in. They've been waiting, they've been wondering, they've been building stories in their heads about your silence. And when you finally break it, the room listens. That's why Machiavelli would tell you, he who explains submits, but he who remains silent forces others to explain themselves. And in their explanations, they often reveal far more than they intended. Silence is the invisible blade. It cuts without moving. It shifts the frame without effort. It makes the attacker destroy themselves while you stand above the noise, untouched. This is why the second law of Machiavellian power is this: master silence. Don't flinch. Don't explain. Don't try to be understood. Let the accusation hang in the air like smoke, and watch as the one who lit the fire chokes on it. Because silence is not absence, it is dominance. And in the game of power, dominance is everything. Silence is powerful, but sometimes silence isn't enough. Sometimes you don't just want to neutralize an attack, you want to turn it into a weapon that cuts the other way. This is where Machiavelli's coldest trick comes in, the inversion of accusation. Here's how it works. Instead of defending, You absorb their words and reflect them back, not as denial, but as a mirror. Someone calls you arrogant. You don't argue. You don't explain. You calmly respond. Strange how confidence makes people so uncomfortable. Notice what just happened. You didn't deny it. You didn't say, "No, I'm not arrogant." You reframed their attack as their insecurity. Now the room isn't watching you. They're watching the accuser squirm. Or imagine someone says, "You're manipulative." The weak response would be to protest, "No, you're misunderstanding me. That's not who I am." But the Machiavellian response? Only people who can't be influenced say that. Do you see the shift? You haven't defended yourself at all. You've made their accusation sound like a confession. You've turned their weapon back onto them without even raising a shield. This is the Machiavellian judo throw. Use their emotional energy against them. Don't resist the attack. Don't meet the sword with a shield. Step aside and let them fall on their own blade. And the beauty of this strategy is simple. The more they try to push, the weaker they look. The audience stops seeing them as brave truth-tellers and starts seeing them as bitter, insecure, obsessed. Meanwhile, you sit calm, unshaken, elevated. Let's put this in a real scenario. You're at a dinner table and someone takes a jab. You always think you're better than everyone else. The average person laughs nervously, tries to smooth it over, maybe even apologizes. But the Machiavellian? He pauses, lets the silence hang, then replies softly, "No, I just don't think like everyone else." Now who looks small? The attacker. Who looks untouchable? You. This is why Machiavelli didn't just warn against defense. He showed the path of dominance. He knew that accusations are gifts. They reveal more about the accuser than they ever could about you. And if you know how to flip them, you don't just protect yourself, you rise. Because here's the truth. People believe what looks strongest, and the man who turns insults into proof of his power will always look stronger than the one who begs to be seen as innocent. That's why the third law of Machiavellian power is this: never deny, reframe, make their words about them, not you. Turn their jab into their weakness. And when you do, you don't just survive the attack, you make them regret ever speaking in the first place. Power doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being feared, respected, and untouchable. And here's the paradox. The more you explain yourself, the more ordinary you become. The more you justify, the more predictable you are. Predictable men are easy to manipulate. But the misunderstood man, the unreadable man, he creates mystery. And mystery is power. Think about it. The figures in history who commanded the deepest respect weren't the ones who constantly defended their reputations. They weren't writing long letters trying to clear their names. They weren't begging people to see the real me. They were the ones who spoke little, who revealed less, who let others fill the silence with their own imagination. And imagination is always louder than explanation, because when you leave space, when you don't explain, when you don't rush to clarify, people start to project their own fears and fantasies onto you. They assume you're stronger, smarter, more dangerous. They give you credit you didn't even ask for. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Fear doesn't always mean terror. It means respect, caution, that pause people feel before they act against you. The man who is always explaining himself is never feared. At best, he's tolerated. At worst, he's ignored. But the man who speaks little, who lets mystery hang in the air, becomes unforgettable. Let's take a real-world example. Picture two leaders. One constantly posts statements, clarifications, apologies, explanations. Every rumor, every accusation, they rush to respond. Over time, people stop taking them seriously. They look reactive, insecure, desperate to be seen as good. Now picture the other leader. Accusations fly, rumors spread, and he says nothing. No clarification, no defense, just stillness. What happens? People lean in, they whisper, "Why isn't he responding? Does he know something we don't? Is he untouchable? Is he planning something?" That silence builds aura. It makes him larger than life. And here's the hidden power. Mystery turns into myth. When people can't read you, they invent stories about you. And those stories often elevate you far higher than you could ever lift yourself. That's why Machiavelli's true genius wasn't just in silence. It was in aura. Aura is the force people feel around you when they realize you can't be shaken, when you're not desperate for approval, when your presence alone commands the room. And aura doesn't come from what you say. It comes from what you don't say, from the gaze you hold when someone challenges you, from the calm posture you keep while others lose control, from the short, precise words you choose only when they matter. Here's the truth. Aura is built through restraint. Every time you resist the urge to defend, you add a stone to your fortress. Every time you hold still while others flail, your legend grows. Every time you choose mystery over clarity, you rise above the crowd. And slowly, people stop seeing you as just another man. You become something else, an image, a myth, a presence, the kind of figure others don't dare cross casually. That's why the fourth law of Machiavellian power is this: never waste words. Let mystery build your aura, because explanation dies the moment it leaves your lips, but mystery grows in the minds of everyone who watches. Here's the cruel beauty of Machiavelli's strategy. You don't need to destroy your enemies. You let them destroy themselves. When someone attacks you, they're not just throwing words, they're making a gamble. They expect a fight. They want drama. They want you rattled, flinching, defending. That's the payoff they're hunting for. And when you don't give it to them, their entire plan collapses. At first, they get frustrated. They think, why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he fighting back? So they push harder. They repeat themselves. They escalate the insult. They raise their voice, get more emotional, maybe even make it personal. And every step they take, the crowd is watching. But here's the shift. No one sees you as weak. They see them unraveling. They see them trying too hard. They see them bleeding insecurity in public, and all the while, you remain still, calm, almost amused. Silence and stillness turn their attack into a mirror. They thought they were exposing you, but now they're exposed. Their obsession becomes obvious. Their insecurity becomes visible. Their collapse is inevitable. Think about how this plays out in everyday life. In an argument with a partner, they accuse you of not caring. The average person panics, defending, reassuring, explaining. But the Machiavellian stays calm. That's not how I see it. Nothing more. Suddenly they begin to question their own words. They wonder if they went too far. They doubt themselves. Or, in a business meeting, someone undermines your idea. The weak man leans forward, nervous, trying to prove himself. But the Machiavellian leans back, waits, maybe even smirks. And if he speaks, it's not a defense, it's a redirect. Interesting. Let's hear your strategy then. Now the room flips. The attacker is the one on trial. This is the psychological collapse. They expected you to fight. Instead, they end up fighting themselves. And here's why it works. Most people survive on emotional validation. Even in conflict, they want attention. They want your energy. They want proof that they matter. But when you deny them that, when you don't react, don't explain, don't even acknowledge, it's like oxygen leaving a fire. Their flames die out, or worse, turn inward and burn them alive. In the digital world, this collapse is even more obvious. Online, people post insults, bait comments, desperate for your response. The weak man takes the bait. He types long replies, defends his reputation, tries to look noble. But the Machiavellian vanishes. No response, no acknowledgement, just absence. And absence is torture. The attacker starts spiraling. They post more. They repeat themselves. They tell others. And with every move, they look weaker, more obsessed, more unstable, while you look untouchable. Machiavelli knew this law well. When your enemy swings at smoke, they collapse from their own weight. You don't win by crushing them. You win by letting them exhaust themselves into ruin. So the fifth law of Machiavellian power is this: don't fight back. Let them fight themselves. Your silence is the stage, their collapse is the performance, and the audience will never forget who stayed calm while the other lost control. Most people spend their lives chasing a good reputation. They want to be liked, admired, seen as fair, kind, agreeable. They defend themselves at every turn, terrified that someone might misunderstand them. They think approval equals power. But Machiavelli saw the flaw. A good reputation is fragile. It depends on the constant approval of others. One rumor, one insult, one attack, and the man who built his reputation on being good is suddenly scrambling to patch the cracks. He becomes defensive, desperate, predictable. A strong reputation, on the other hand, is untouchable, because it's not built on being good. It's built on being feared, respected, mysterious, and most importantly, it's built on never defending. Think about it. The man who is always trying to clear his name looks insecure, but the man who lets accusations fall unanswered looks unshakable. Over time, people stop expecting him to explain. They stop trying to put him on trial. They assume he's too high above it all. That assumption becomes his shield. The difference is subtle, but deadly. The man with a good reputation is expected to stay clean, soft, agreeable. Everyone feels entitled to question him. The man with a strong reputation is not always liked, not always trusted, but no one dares move against him casually. He radiates danger. His silence creates fear. His presence alone carries weight. And here's the paradox. Silence doesn't just protect your reputation, it creates it. The less you defend, the more people invent stories about you. The more you stay calm, the more they assume you're confident, calculating, untouchable. Mystery turns into myth, and myth is stronger than facts. This is why some of the most powerful figures in history were deeply misunderstood. They weren't loved by everyone. They weren't even trusted by everyone. But they were respected. People moved carefully around them, and that caution, that aura, was their real armor. Now let's bring this closer to home. Imagine you're in a group, a dinner table, or a meeting. Someone makes a jab. You always think you know everything. Most people panic, laugh it off nervously, or rush to explain. But the Machiavellian, he doesn't flinch. Maybe he gives a long, calm gaze. Maybe a faint smirk. Maybe just two words. Interesting take. Suddenly the jab looks small. The accuser looks petty. And you? You look composed, above it, stronger. That's how reputations are built. Not by fighting every small fire, but by showing you're made of stone. This is why Machiavelli would smirk at those obsessed with being liked, because being liked is not power. Being respected, even feared, is. So the sixth law of Machiavellian power is this: don't chase a good reputation, build a strong one. Not everyone has to like you, not everyone has to trust you, but everyone must think twice before challenging you. And that happens only when you stop defending and let your silence define you. There's a level beyond reputation. Reputation is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Aura is what people feel when you walk in. Aura is not built on chatter. It's not built on explanations, apologies, or long defenses. Aura is built on restraint, on what you withhold. It's built on the weight of your silence, the stillness of your posture, the precision of your words when you finally choose to speak. Think about the people who have walked into a room and immediately shifted the energy without saying a word. They didn't need to announce themselves. Their presence alone demanded attention. That's aura. Machiavelli understood that this kind of presence doesn't come from being louder than everyone else. It comes from being harder to read than everyone else. The unreadable man is dangerous. He makes others cautious. They don't know how far they can push. They don't know what's behind that calm gaze, and because of that, they hesitate. Aura is control without effort. It's when your silence alone makes people second-guess their own words, when your stillness makes the attacker feel small, when your composure forces others to measure themselves against you. And here's the secret. Aura isn't something you project by trying. The moment you try to look powerful, you lose it. Aura comes from discipline, choosing silence when others chatter, choosing stillness when others fidget, choosing presence over performance. For example, imagine someone takes a public shot at you. You always act like you're above everyone else. Most people react. They defend, they laugh nervously, they try to soften the blow. But the man with aura, he doesn't flinch. He simply looks calm and amused. Maybe he says nothing. Maybe he says 3 words, if that's so. And suddenly, the room tilts. Because aura isn't about proving you're above. It's about making others feel it without you lifting a finger. This is why aura is feared more than raw strength. Strength can be measured, challenged, even broken. Aura cannot. Because aura lives in the imagination of everyone watching. It's the space between what you could do and what you choose not to do. It's the silence that people fill with their own fears. The great paradox of aura is this. It is built not on action, but on restraint. The less you defend, the stronger it grows. The less you reveal, the more people invent. And what people invent is always larger, darker, more powerful than the truth. Machiavelli knew this. The most dangerous man is not the one who attacks, but the one who never needs to. His aura alone is enough to paralyze opposition. So the 7th law of Machiavellian power is this. Build an aura of stillness, not noise. Make your silence speak louder than their accusations. Make your calmness heavier than their drama. When people can't read you, they can't touch you. And when they can't touch you, you've already won. There is strength, and then there is something higher, immunity. Strength can still be rattled. Strength can still be provoked. Strength can still feel the sting of insult, even if it fights back. Immunity, however, doesn't even acknowledge the hit. It is beyond defense, beyond reaction, beyond the court of public opinion. This is the Machiavellian endgame, the moment when you no longer explain, no longer justify, no longer seek to be understood, because your very presence has become the defense. Think about it. The man who constantly argues for his innocence looks guilty. The man who pleads to be seen as good looks desperate. But the man who refuses to even play that game, the man who never defends, becomes something else entirely. He becomes untouchable. Because here's the paradox. The less you fight accusations, the less they stick. An insult unanswered doesn't live long. It hangs for a moment, then dies in silence. But the moment you argue, you breathe life into it. You make it real. The Machiavellian knows this. He doesn't resist attacks. He lets them rot in the echo chamber of their own weakness. And in doing so, he rises above them. This is why, over time, those who refuse to defend develop an aura of danger. People stop trying to put them on trial because they know there will be no trial, no argument, no defense, nothing to feed on. Attacking such a man feels pointless, even risky. That's when you reach true power, not when people fear what you might say, but when they fear wasting their energy against someone who cannot be touched. And this is the cold truth Machiavelli understood. Power doesn't belong to the loud. It doesn't belong to the defensive. It belongs to the man who answers to no one, the one who doesn't chase approval, the one who doesn't explain his silence, the one who doesn't need to clear his name because he never put it up for judgment in the first place. This is the final law. Never live in defense. Live in definition. Define your tone. Define your presence. Define your silence. Let others scramble, doubt, collapse. You remain still. And in that stillness, you cross the line from strength to immunity. you become not just respected, but untouchable. Now ask yourself this: how much stronger would you be if you stopped defending today? How different would your presence feel if you mastered silence, inversion, and aura? That's the path of Machiavellian power. And if you want to keep sharpening your edge, if you want more lessons that reveal what others hide, then stay with me. Subscribe, like this video, and walk further into the game, because this is just the beginning.